Alright, we are back. We're gonna build up this frame. This is the Magic Components wizard frame. I did a video covering all the specs and everything, so this is just gonna be a build vid. And yeah, it'll make such a good kind of like touring frame because it's got all the mounts on the bottom, mounts on the seat tube. But I think I decided I'm gonna make this a single speed, so I put the single speed dropouts on the back already, just there. You can see you can change it. So for now I'm just going to build it up single speed, and yeah, we'll see how we go. I can always build it up again later if I decide to. I got these wheels I got to clean up. These are old DM24s, so kind of thick, and I can put some thick tires on there. I think that'll be pretty cool. And then I got a headset which I can kind of start mocking up everything, see how I want to build it. This is just a Tange one. I thought keep it somewhat Japanese. I don't know, it's going to be all random parts anyway. But yeah, I decided on this one because I love the head cap. I'll take it out in a second. But yeah, my idea is kind of like do a single speed. I can ride around Melbourne pretty good. You can ride single speed pretty much all in Melbourne, and it'll be kind of like a little bit of a jib bike, but yeah, can kind of like shred a little bit on it, but also be a nice kind of commuter for when I, you know, do my ride talks and ride around and skate or whatever. So yeah, that's basically the plan. Try to keep it light so you can kind of just whip it out and go. I only have the cross cargo single speed at the moment, so this is kind of like an alternative for if I don't want to bring a huge basket on the front. But yeah, as always, we'll see how we go. Always changes depending on as the build goes along, but yeah, we'll see how we go. All right, here's the headset. Yeah, you can see super cool top cap. That's kind of big reason why I bought it. And also it's got sealed bearings. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm gonna load it up, and then I can start seeing what bars and stem I can chuck on. Shout out Darren for the crown setter tool, and he gave me another tool as well. But yeah, still going strong, still working strong if you're watching Darren. And yeah, I usually like to get headsets with the split crown so you don't have to worry about kind of installing it. But yeah, I guess this one's a full solid one. But yeah, basically you just put the crown setter tool on and then tap the top, and then the sound should change as soon as it hits the fork, and then that's it. All right, just double check, make sure there's no gap. Seems pretty good. Also, there's a helicopter going on. Not sure what's going on. Yeah, I guess that's one of the perks for working on a balcony. You always hear stuff going on. But yeah, here basically just gonna chuck the frame on, just stand, and then we can install the headset. So yeah, this is a DIY headset tool. It's just a rod from Bunnings and just 2 plates and 2 nuts, and then you just clamp them together. I would say the only thing about it is sometimes it can get a little tricky to line it up and make sure the pressure is going right, like straight all the way through. If it goes a little bit off, then you just have to readjust it. But other than that, it works pretty well for something fairly cheap. And then what I wanted to do was line up the logo on the front, because I only had one logo on the headset cup. And I find if you do one headset cup at a time, it actually, yeah, works better. All right, that's all on there. Looking pretty sweet. And then yeah, just make sure there's no gap in between. You'll feel it once you tighten it. You probably won't be able to tighten it anymore with that excessive force. And then another tip is I also ran the bearings in there just because I didn't want to press on the thin edge. Alright, headset's installed. Pretty happy with it. It's relatively centered as well. Yeah, the top cup didn't have a logo, so you could just press it in however you want. So a little plastic dust cap, and then there's the bearing, bottom bearing, top bearing, little tension shim thing, and then the top cap. And then here I get to chuck the wheels on. The dropout is 132.5, so you can run both 130 and 135. I basically just had to stretch it out a little bit. Alright, it's looking pretty sweet already. I'm not going to put these tires on. These are just old tires, so I'm going to chuck some new ones on, or semi-new. And you can see these hubs are actually disc hubs, but the rims you can run rim brakes, so that's pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is actually just give these a clean, maybe check the bearings, see that if they're all right. You can see these are Dior 525, slightly newer model, and then same on the front here. But yeah, definitely need a bit of a clean up, and then I'll check the bearings. So I'm just using a detergent and soap water mix spray, and this seems to work pretty well. If you worry about soap suds on your rims or getting off your rims, you can always use brake cleaner afterwards, but usually if you give it a good wash, it should be fine. And then using just a little pressure sprayer from Bunnings. So yeah, when I started cleaning these wheels, it ended up being a bigger job than I thought. I thought I'd just give them a quick rinse and then it should be done. But yeah, these wheels have been sitting around for a while, and the person who had them, you know, obviously didn't clean them ever and just kind of ran them, which meant the, you know, the grease was kind of like really stuck on and the dirt was really stuck on. I even needed to clean up the spokes and stuff. You can see some of the decals, the top layer starting to chip off, so I just tried to take off all the chips and clean up some of the yellow on there. I thought the sticker itself was quite cool, just yeah, the kind of little bird logo, and then also the typeface for DM24. I don't know if you ever ran into that where you thought it would be like a 5-minute job, but then yeah, you look at the dirt once you start getting to it, and it becomes a mission. Here you can see I'm starting to use WD-40 to clean it up, just because I'm going to be redoing the bearings on the inside anyway, so it shouldn't matter. And then more spray. I would say cleaning the hub on the inside of the hub is probably the most annoying, because it's hard to reach and then your fingers always get jammed in the spokes. But yeah, it's got to be done. Rotate the wheel more often, and that helps. Alright, these are somewhat clean. I cleaned it the best I could. Still some dirt here and there, but yeah, way better than before. So now all I have to do is do the bearings. They do spin alright, but I'm going to just check the bearings anyway. But yeah, get them there. Alright, don't let me fool you. I know I just said just the bearings, but actually a bit of a mission to do the bearings. You basically just take up this rubber seal, and then you need, I think it's called a hub wrench, and then just a normal wrench to just undo it. And then just take it off in order. There's a nut, the spacer, and then the inside cone, I guess, nut cone thing. Also, once you loosen it, it helps to have a wrench on the other side to help you kind of get it off. You can see that's off. And then just pull the axle out a tiny bit so your bearings don't go inside the hub. And then I use a little magnet just to get all the bearings out. Sometimes you can pop off this metal shield. I couldn't pop it off this time. I tried a few times, couldn't pop it off. So I decided just to leave it on there. I didn't want to use too much force and break it. then it's the same for the other side. When you're pulling out this side, just be careful of the bearings falling out, and some bearings might be stuck to the axle as well. You can see this is so greased up, pretty crazy. But yeah, better more grease than not. I feel like this has been serviced at some point because it had so much grease in there, but yeah, it was still pretty dirty. And then yeah, just give it a clean. I use cotton buds or earbuds to clean the inside when there's the flat washer on the top, the shield. Otherwise you can just wipe it without a cotton bud. Here, taking all the grease off the axle. Lots of grease. Use the same grease I use, Red Devil grease. And then yeah, just gave everything a clean. Alright, here it is pretty cleaned up. I was able to get some of the black gunk off, but you can still see it's a little bit pitted. Yeah, sometimes just got to run it like that, and same with this one. This one isn't so bad, but yeah, sometimes people ask me like, oh, why are you still cleaning it if it's pitted, and why are you putting new bearings in? It's because like maybe some people out there, they can't just buy a new wheel, so in that case you can just do this. I, however, might have some new bearings, so I'll take a look to see if I have enough, and if I do, I'll put them in. If I don't, you can always clean these up and put them back in as well. Alright, you might notice when you're cleaning a little bit like this right there, and that's usually like an extra bit of metal. I don't know if you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it right there. So what you want to do is try to get these out. There we go. So I got it out. The reason why you want to get these out is because it can mess up your threads if you have little bits in there. This usually happens when it kind of cross threads a little bit, but you can always just check the threads to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah, so sometimes you gotta try to get it out, and then you can use the nut to kind of just run it through, try to get all the debris out. And yeah, once I did that, it was working pretty well. You can spray a bit of WD-40 or put some grease in there to help it, but yeah, try to get as much as the debris out as possible. And then here, all the bearings, so there's 10 on each side. And then just putting the bearings in by hand. I used to use like a little spoke, a magnetic spoke, to kind of put each bearing in, but yeah, sometimes it's easy just to chuck all the bearings in and then move it around. This is a seal pick tool from Boot Bike. Shout out Boot Bike. They also gave me the copper grease, so shout out them. And actually this Dualco grease gun as well, been going strong. So when you push the axle in, just be real careful not to push any bearings inside the hub body, otherwise it becomes like so annoying to get back out and re-grease everything. And then once you push it all the way in, just hold it with your finger so it doesn't like fall back, and then you can do the same with the other side, grease it up, chuck all the bearings in, and then put more grease on top, and then put the cone spacer in. You can see the whole time I'm holding the axle with my other hand as well. And then you just put everything back in the same order, the spacer, the nut. And then here what you want to do is tighten the two nuts together, and then you want to make sure it spins freely, but there's not too much play or no play at all. And then yeah, you just give it a spin, and then you'll be able to feel it with your fingers. It might take a few times to do. This time it took me yeah, a couple of times to get it right, the right tension. But yeah, sometimes you just got to do it. It just takes a little bit. Sometimes you get it first go as well, which is pretty good. And then you just put the rubber seals back on. They just kind of, yeah, snap on or push on, and then skewer back on. Make sure the spring, the bigger side, is facing the outer of the wheel, and then you're done. And then here we basically repeat the same process for the rear wheel. And I'd say the rear wheel is, yeah, probably way harder because you got yeah, the free hub body on there. But yeah, basically the same process. You can see when I was taking it off, there's a little bit of metal shard here. So yeah, make sure yeah, you clean that off before you undo the nut. Otherwise, yeah, there could be issues. So yeah, that's off there. And yeah, I know what you're wondering. You're probably wondering why, like, is it worth refurbing this old wheel set or spending the time to do it? And for me, yeah, for me it is, because otherwise the whole wheel set gets chucked out, and I feel like, you know, once I redo it, it'll feel pretty good. The bearing should run all right, and you can kind of like thrash it and not be stressed about it. I think people, if you don't, yeah, if you don't have time, you can probably just buy a wheel set. But obviously, if you can save it, I think that's better. Also, for me, I I enjoy doing it, so I feel like that adds a big part of it. But yeah, up to you, really. Alright, so I just got it off just to show you. It's basically a 10 mil Allen, and if you really want to take this apart, you can take it apart as well. I just don't have the tool, but it's basically a notch tool that fits in there, and you undo it, and then 1,000 bearings fall out this side, and there's a bearing ring in here too. But yeah, I'm just going to give it a clean, chuck it back on. And then here, just giving everything a clean. If you want a video on how to take apart the free hub body, Monkey Shred has one. So yeah, shout out Monkey Shred. He did it, yeah, he did before. But yeah, basically I'm just cleaning the outside and yeah, just getting rid of all the dirt again. I think I think at this point I was just like, since I have everything apart, I may as well clean it. I think it's probably a bit over the top, obviously, but yeah, once I start doing it, I'm like, why not? It's all apart, may as well give it a clean. And then once that was done, I gave everything else a wipe down. Again, the cones weren't the best condition, and they had some black kind of gunk on it, so I had to kind of like get that off. But yeah, this wheel set, I'm just gonna, yeah, kind of just run and thrash anyway, so should be good for that. So yeah, another tip that you might have noticed already is I always keep one side of the nuts on the axle, so you don't have to worry about respacing everything. When I first started, I kind of just took both sides off because I didn't know any better. But if you keep one side on, you don't have to worry about respacing the axle within the hub. And then some new bearings here too, so these are 9 on each side. These are bigger size, so yeah, just make sure you get the right sizes. And then just putting everything back together, the little spacer plate, and put a little bit of grease here. This is also like, and also a bit of grease on the inside. This is also, you can switch out yeah, the free hub body if you need to. You might want to go single speed one or something a little different splined. But yeah, there you have it. Pretty easy to kind of take on and off. Or yeah, if your free hub body cooks it, then you can replace it. Here, putting the shield on. So yeah, with the shield, the flat side goes against the bearings, which is probably a bit counterintuitive. But yeah, that's how it goes. Most people get it mixed up. If you put it in the other way, it's going to just grind on your bearings, so you definitely don't want that. And then yeah, here same thing, just put in the bearings, and then what you need to do is just tension it again. Another tip, if you don't know, is you can actually look up, if you take apart your hub and then you forgot which order goes back in or how many bearings or whatever, you can actually just look up the hub serial number, and it should come up with like a diagram or a schematic on how or what parts are used. And yeah, they're always good to reference to. Shimano has it for pretty much all their hubs, so yeah, it makes it real easy in case you forget. So yeah, I put some Holy rollers on. These are kind of just what I had, and I think they would suit what I want. So they're 26 by 2.4, should be a bit of room. The tread is pretty decent. I think they just have a little bit of a kind of fading on them, but yeah, these are going to be sweet. And then I have these valve caps. I think they're car ones. Alright, just put the valves on, and I realized this one seems to be kind of bulging out for some reason, but yeah, it seems to be holding for now, so just see how that goes. And then here with the dropouts, I decided just to tighten them or check the tightness, and yeah, it seems like they were a little bit loose because I just chucked them on there, so I wanted to make sure they were tight before I put the wheels in. But yeah, super stoked to get the wheels done. I feel like this was kind of an initial mission of the bike build, and yeah, it should be basically smooth sailing from here, fingers crossed. But yeah, super stoked to get the wheels on and the tires on, and then now yeah, I'll be able to kind of like check it out and decide how I want to run the setup. Alright, yeah, looking pretty sweet, I think. Lots of clearance on the front and even the back, really. These are 2.4s. You can see you can probably go even bigger if you wanted to, but yeah, I think 2.4 is pretty good. Alright, so this is what I decided for the build after trying on a bunch of parts. So I got moth bars. These been on a bike that I haven't really ridden much, so I just want to chuck it up back on. Kind of missed these bars. And these are kind of magic component bars as well, so I think it'll go good with the bike. Just got a nice silver stem, thin stem to kind of suit the thin frame. Got these Atlas cranks for a good deal, so I'm going to chuck them on. They're 32 tooth up front, so I got to run a pretty small cog at the back, so we'll see if we can do that. I want to go under 16 just because it's pretty flat in Melbourne, and it's I think it's a BB30, so I have a BB30 bottom bracket. I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or bad idea just to put that on. I might switch out the cranks in the future, but for now I'm going to chuck these on. And then got the XTR brakes. They probably just need a bit of a brush up, bit of a clean, maybe some new pads. We'll see about that if I got some. And then got these old Cannondale levers. This one's in better shape than this one, but yeah, I always thought these were kind of cool looking with the little barrel adjuster like that. Pretty unique, I think. Got a flight saddle, changing out from a turbo that I normally use. So yeah, I haven't tried these for pretty long now, but I think for this bike I want to keep it kind of fast, so try to keep it light as well with the flight. And then maybe these Burtec pedals, we'll see. I'm not undecided on pedals yet, but maybe these will go. And then got this Theory seat post, 27.2, shout out Theory. I used the silver one before in my Kona build, but yeah, super solid. I like it, super clean, zero offset. And yeah, that's basically it. So we'll try to get a few of these parts on there and then see how it goes. I'm just worried about if the crank will fit, but we'll figure that out. So yeah, I actually had this bike sitting out for a little bit, so need to clean the BB, make sure there's nothing in the threads or anything, and yeah, just use the cloth and just floss it through. And then here, just using here I'm just using the normal grease. You can use copper grease here if you want to get a bit more kind of like waterproof, yeah, waterproof action. But yeah, normal grease works fine too. And what I need to do is run some spaces. So I'm kind of just freestyling this because I got this BB off Amazon or eBay or something like that, just wherever was cheap. And yeah, no instructions, of course. So just got to freestyle it. So it's kind of like the Shimano one. You just run spaces on both sides. I think Shimano is meant to be like you run a 5 on the outside and a 3 on the inside, 3mm. But here, yeah, basically just freestyling it. The chain line for me isn't as important because I'm running single speed. But yeah, I just try to get it as much to the middle as possible. And then here, just yeah, test fitting it on. Just want to make sure the cranks actually go on there before I tighten everything up. And then a little bit of grease on this spindle. Nice big spindle, should be super strong. It's probably way stronger than I need for the bike, but yeah, it's just a crank I had on hand at the moment, so why not use it? And then yeah, just basically push it in. You can see I don't have any spaces on the actual spindle at the moment because I basically need to measure it. And then this crank has kind of like a self-extracting bolt. You just tighten it up and it'll pull the spindle into the frame arm or the crank arm. And then yeah, you just do it tight, and then here I'm going to work out how many spaces I need. Alright, so I was able to install it, but you can see there's a little gap on each side because I think these cranks, they can fit 73 bottom bracket as well, so I need to put some spaces in there. So what I can do is basically put that in and then measure that and put a couple of spaces in, probably one on each side, and that should be it. This is for kind of like the tension. You can use this to tension, take out the play. But yeah, I'm gonna have to run a spacer or two. So yeah, just doing some testing here. This silver wavy washer is like, it's kind of like, I think it's called a tension washer. You can use that if you want your cranks not to free spin as much. Like if you're doing if you're doing like massive tower whips or something, you might not want your cranks to spin, but I think yeah, for me, I probably won't be doing any on this bike, so I didn't need it. And then yeah, with the bottom bracket, I tried like 3 or 4 tools and all my tools didn't fit, and I was like, damn, just like another standard that I don't have, even though yeah, I have lots of them, which is quite annoying. So I use this old pin wrench tool, and you just hold it as tight as you can and then just turn it. Luckily this, I could get away with it on this. It seemed pretty tight on there. Yeah, just because I guess yeah, I just gripped it pretty hard, but yeah, that ended up working. Luckily saved me buying a, you know, a $30 tool or something. So yeah, I ended up running some spaces on the inside, just one on each side, and that seemed like it was enough. Just tighten it, and then yeah, that seemed to work all right. But yeah, I love these cranks. They're like super light, super strong. They're not going to slip off the square tape or anything. And yeah, they look cool. They're probably just hard to get, I think. Maybe just more expensive if you're buying new. Alright, it's on. Yeah, honestly hyped with the cranks actually. I think they look sick. Here, just greasing up the seat posts, no brainer here. Just grease it up and just put a layer of grease on. You know what happens if you don't. Can cause you 8 days of pain. But yeah, here just slid it in, fit real good, good sizing, and then yeah, just tighten the bolt up. Yeah, another cool thing I like about this frame is the integrated seat post clamp, so you don't have to worry about getting an extra seat collar or anything like that. It just makes it easier. One less thing to buy. Here, putting on the saddle, and how to set up the saddle, I basically just try to set it up horizontal and then just go from there. Usually horizontal works pretty well for me. I know some people like to tilt down or tilt up, but yeah, it really depends on how you're sitting on the seat, and yeah, the kind of like bar setup and reach you have as well. And then here, just chucking on the stem, I decided to run it upside down because I think, yeah, it kind of lines up with the top tube, and I think it looks a bit better, and also kind of from my fixie days, just used to having stem kind of in that direction. I think it just suits the bike a little bit better. There's probably no kind of function for having it upside down other than looks, so yeah, don't let that fool you. And then here, just putting on the bars, a good tip here is you run the tight curve on the smallest part of the stem, so you make it easy to put on. I don't know if this is obvious for most people, but I remember when I was first starting, it was actually pretty tricky to work that out, but once you work it out, it makes it super easy. And then the super wide bars on a single bolt stem, is it going to hold? So yeah, basically I just did some testing. I might need to switch it out in the future, but it does take a lot of pressure, and to be honest, I don't know how many jumps am I doing on this bike. I'm not sure, but obviously I still want it to be like fairly strong in case the mood strikes me. But yeah, for now, I think it kind of looks cool and matches the bike as well, so we'll see how we go. Alright, here's the bars on there, looking pretty sweet. I think it doesn't really slip just yet, but I feel like it could if I went real hard on it. So if I wanted to do crazy tricks, I'd probably have to change the stem a bit, but for now I think it's good. And then for this, there seems to be a lot of spaces here, so I'm hoping I'll be able to find some type of tube that I can cut up, maybe chuck that in there, so it'll be a bit cleaner, and then probably cut off the top as well. But yeah, overall I think pretty cool. So yeah, while I look for a tube, I decided to just give these brakes quick brush up. So yeah, these are XTR. Don't know if, I think they're called dual parallel. I don't know what they're called, but yeah, just XTR brakes. They're light. They work well. When you release them, they give a big gap for the wheel to kind of fall out of. What I mean by that is when you want to change your wheel out, you can easily get your wheel out without the tire getting stuck on the brake pads or anything. They give a big gap when they open up. But yeah, other than that, not too much to it. I think just XTR is lighter, but probably more prone to braking. But yeah, they've kind of ran pretty well for me, so I think this bike kind of deserves it because I just want to keep things light, and there also isn't that many parts I need for this bike, so I may as well do it up for this one. And then when you're putting on the brakes, you just grease up the little bosses and then make sure that little pin sits in the middle. You can put it on whatever one you want. I usually start on the middle hole. If you need more tension, you can change the hole, but middle usually works for me. And then yeah, what I need to do is basically just line up the brake pads as well. But yeah, overall pretty good. These brakes also come with the little brake inserts that you can replace. However, I haven't really looked online, but I think they're a little bit hard to get, but hopefully I can find a place that I can get some inserts in there, because I think yeah, just makes it super easy to change out the brake pads, because then you don't have to you know, readjust all the bolts or anything, hopefully. And then yeah, same with for the front, just chuck it on the front, same deal, put the pin in the hole, put the grease on, chuck it on, tighten it up, make sure it springs back, and should be good. Alright, here we are at Bunnings. Bunnings is a hardware store, obviously in Australia. You might have one in your town, Home Depot, whatever, but they sell these different pipes. And then, so there's a piping area and then there's a plumbing area. So yeah, just check the two areas and you'll be able to find something. Alright, just back from Bunnings, and I ended up getting this. I think the metal's going to look better. So yeah, I think this was $9. But yeah, you can see the fit. Like pretty good, I think. I think there is a little bit of a gap, but it'll do the job. So yeah, you can get a PVC pipe as well, and I think that's $2 cheaper, but I think the metal is probably going to be worth it, and it won't, yeah, I won't have to like paint it or do anything, and it's a bit thinner as well, so I think it'll look a bit cooler. But yeah, there's PVC pipe if you want to use that. And then here I'm just using the Nipex tube cutter. They sent it to me, so yeah, shout out Nipex. Works really well actually. I think the turning bit, the blue bit, it's real nice to kind of clamp down, so I like it. This top burr remover, yeah, it doesn't really do much, so it's better just to sand it, I think. But yeah, if you're in a rush, you can just use the burr remover. And then here, just testing the tube before I go ahead with it. And yeah, pretty good fit. There's probably like a mil gap on the tube, or 0.5 of a mil. But yeah, overall pretty good. You can hardly ever notice it. And then after using the tube cutter, you might get a little bit of a mark from the rollers, but sometimes you can just wipe it off. I think it does leave a slight mark, but what I'm going to do is, yeah, try to brush it up. Here I'm just cutting the top part for the top of the steerer. I decided not to cut the steerer. I'm just going to run it high as in case I want to go super comfy with it. Just run full steerer length. So yeah, a little tip when you're cutting the top tube or the steerer tube, just make sure you add maybe like 2 or 3 mils, because when you clamp everything down in the steerer, it's gonna close up that gap, so you don't want to cut it and then have it be too short and then have to cut another one. So yeah, that's basically what I did. And here I'm just, yeah, giving it a sand, giving it a brush up on the drill press. I have this little sanding tool thing, and I think it gives it kind of like a nice brushed look. Mainly I did it just to get rid of those roller lines on there, but yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. And then yeah, gave it a wash, and then yeah, just because this is galvanized steel, I just sprayed it with a little bit of WD-40, gave it a wipe, and then have it dry in the sun, and that kind of protects it a little bit. But yeah, I also don't mind if it has starts developing patina or whatever. I think that will look cool as well. And installing the star nut, I just put a flat screw in there, and I didn't bother with all the sockets and stuff this time. Just freestyled it, hold it with the pliers. And then bada bing bada boom, that's done. Alright, here it is. Yeah, super stoked with how that turned out. It looks super clean, and there's really no play once you clamp it down. And it matches flush here with the stem, which is quite nice because the other spaces were a little bit thicker. I did chuck on this, but yeah, I do like this stem cap. However, I think a silver one might look better, so I'm just going to swap that out. There we go. Wow. Yeah, super stoked with that. I think it looks so good, if I must say so myself. Yeah, it's quite funny, like even though even though the stem spaces isn't too difficult and didn't take too much work, yeah, still super stoked on it. Just like, yeah, just making something that you don't know if it's gonna work out or not, but then yeah, it turns out pretty good. So yeah, super stoked on that. Definitely anyone could do it, I think. Here I just chucked the levers on, and yeah, you can just do them up kind of tight with the short end. Here I'm just measuring with the Allen key to make sure they're the same length on each side, and then you just hop over the bars, make sure they feel comfortable with your hands once you put it on. Obviously you're not going to be on the bike seat, but you can still get a pretty good feel on it. Once I get chuck pedals on and stuff, I'll hop on properly and then see how they feel. But yeah, usually this is a pretty good starting point. And then here just cutting the cables. Alright, so notice with this, you can actually take this through out, and the cable, you can actually run full housing cable through it. So if you're running V-brakes, you could just run the whole thing across. But I think I'm gonna keep it exposed on the top, because I think it would be kind of weird having a black line go on top of the frame. So yeah, that's kind of the reasoning why I did that. And then yeah, always have your brake noodle handy so you can measure the correct length of the cable. You can see after I cut it, it's a little bit long with the noodle there. So I'll probably give it a little bit of a trim, this one. Alright, that's a bit better. And yeah, I ran it in the middle position of the cable guides because I want it to be symmetrical. A thing with cutting cables is, yeah, things that could affect it is bar height, lever position, the brake noodle, of course, and yeah, it depends if you want to adjust your bars or stem up and down later on. That's really going to affect your cable length, so try to have those all set up as close as possible so you can get the best gauge. I think, yeah, usually comes with a little bit of experience, but if you have all those things set up properly, then your cable, it'll help you get the proper cable length. Alright, so you might run into this problem where one caliper is all the way out and the other one is pretty much in. And what you need to do is basically check if your wheel has been dished properly first. I think this one is too much to the left, so that's how I'm going to fix it. And basically you just tighten every second spoke on the side that you want it to go over to. So for this side I'm going to go on the right, and then it should do it, and then that should help straighten up your V-brakes. If not, you can also change out the spaces in there. There's multiple spaces. Here you can see there's a thick one here and a thin one there. You can swap those around if need be. But yeah, try to dish it up first. Alright, so I dished the wheel and you can see now it's straight and the brake levers are kind of more even on each side. If it's still basically like leaning over, what you need to do is you might need to adjust these screws. So if you need to pull it over to the left, you tighten this and then loosen this one on the other side. And yeah, that's basically it. I also did it on the back. Yeah, this is the back one. And yeah, when you're dishing the wheel, I just did quarter turns. So quarter turns on all the right spokes, and then a quarter turn left on all the left spokes. So you just, one side's tighten, one side's loosened, depending on which side you want to move it. And then yeah, use the valve as a guide to go all the way around. You might need to drill it a little bit after, but yeah, it's not too bad. And you don't need to have a wheel stand. I just put the bike upside down and just gave it a little bit of a true. And for the people that are unsure what it is, this is basically what you use. It's kind of like a spoke key. You just put it on here, you turn it. So you put a screwdriver all the way through, you'll tighten this way and then loosen that way. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing it. So what that means is tighten this way and then loosen that way. Alright, pedal time. So I was going to chuck on those, but I had these, actually a couple of pairs of these DX pedals, and yeah, I just want to give them a try. I heard they were good. I think also silver matches the bike, so just going to chuck these on for now and see how they go. I think there's two kinds. There's made in Japan ones and made in Malaysia ones. Obviously almost basically the same. I think the only thing that's different is this bit, this metal bit here. You can see how it's slightly different on these ones. But yeah, some people say the color is slightly different, but I don't know if you guys can tell. They're basically the same. Also, fun fact, I used to think these were XC pedals. But yeah, they're DX. Here, just giving the threads a clean. Actually, it's funny because yeah, when you buy stuff secondhand, you always got to make sure everything's good. Luckily these were, so no issues here. A little bit of copper paste and using the Equip tool to chuck it on. Shout out Equip Japan. Quite a nice tool actually. Real ergonomic, feels good when you put it on, gives you enough leverage, everything like that. Pretty cool. It's also called cucumber, which is pretty funny, I think. Yeah, but yeah, just tighten it up. You can hold the other crank arm to get leverage if you need to. I think I was pushing against my leg at this point. But yeah, that's basically it. I like my pedals fairly tight. And then here, checking on the grips. These are Theory grips. Yeah, just ones I used before, but they were obviously still good. So I just want to chuck them back on. Just simple grips. Yeah, pretty soft. Has just your classic ridges on there. And then I used, I didn't use water this time actually. I used isopropyl alcohol. And yeah, works pretty well. It was nice and easy. Should dry pretty quick because there's alcohol. But yeah, these were kind of like pre-cut. I just cut the ends off because I just wanted them a bit shorter. I think usually they're for like BMX or whatever. And then yeah, just put the bar ends on. They come with these cool plastic bar ends. All right, they're on. After putting on the grips, I realized I needed a bit more room on my hand. You can see that when I change to one finger pull, my hands are kind of almost slipping off the end. So I just want to move it up a bit. That way I can run 2-finger or 1-finger brake depending on how I feel. I think these brakes are probably meant for 2-finger lever, but yeah, you can run them however you want. And then here, just looking at the chain line, a little tip I like to use is just a tape measure flush against the chain ring. Alright, time to chuck on the rear cassette or rear cog, and I had to actually take it off one of my old bikes because I didn't have enough spaces. But anyway, it'll be good for me to check it out. So I got a 14 here. There's somewhere on here. Yeah, 14T. And also got 13. So I think I was kind of somewhere around there. Maybe it's a 15 too, but I'm actually going to chuck both these cogs on, and then I'll be able to kind of test it from there, see what I need. So yeah, I'm hoping that once I size up the chain, I'll be able to put the cog on each side of the chain line, and then I'll be able to run both just to see how I go with the gear inches. Here I'm just chucking on the chain, just an old chain that kind of broke apart, so I need to fix it up a bit, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. Just a little bit dirty, that's all. And you can see there's a bit of slack on it, and I thought I would be able to put on the 14, but after trying for a bit there was just no way. Alright, turns out I can only run 13 because the 14 is too tight for the chain, so I guess that made my decision easy. Yeah, in that point I didn't want to add an extra link because it would have made the chain fairly long, and I didn't want to have my wheel like too far out of the dropouts. It's just just didn't want to get roasted by fixie kids. So the 13 and the chain length was pretty good. Could have it almost slammed in the dropouts, so I was kind of stoked on that. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I did that. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason other than I just want it like that. And then with the chain tension, you want a little bit of play, but obviously not too much. You don't want a baggy chain unless you're one of those baggy BMX riders, which is pretty sick actually. But yeah, now the wheel's gone, that's basically the last thing. So here's the finished bike. yeah, I was super excited to ride this, and yeah, it ended up being so much fun. I think the short chainstay at the back makes it a little bit more agile, which is sick. And then also the steering, I thought would be more lax because of the head tube angle and also the raked out fork, but actually it goes together really well. Feels, yeah, pretty nimble. I think definitely more nimble than your standard vintage mountain bike, but not as aggressive as like a track frame or something. All in all, I'm super stoked, obviously, and yeah, keen to kind of do it up with some stickers on, maybe chuck some stem bags on, see what my setup will be, maybe even a front rack. I do like having it just skinny at the moment, but yeah, might chuck a front rack on, see how I go, and then yeah, I'll ride it more and give it a little bit more of a review after I've had a chance to properly yeah, bed it in. Big thank you to Magic Components. They make cool stuff. Check them out, check out Crumbworks, and yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.